Hi, welcome to the 1% Pathway podcast. I'm your host, Dennis McQueen of MCQ Properties. I talk with leading real estate industry experts to explore how they're building serious wealth through commercial real estate so that you, our listeners, can learn, model, and do the same. Today, we're talking about a challenge that affects investors, executives, and leaders at every level. When the stakes are high, smart people can get stuck with this idea of analysis paralysis. Our guest brings a leadership framework called ACE, which stands for authenticity, confidence, and effectiveness. We're going to explore how leaders can stop overthinking, make better decisions, and execute with more clarity and conviction. My guest today, I'm excited to talk with. I have before Cheddy Matthews. He's a retired U.S. Marine Corps officer, a transformational leadership coach, and the voice behind the Winning Inside podcast. He's known globally as Cheddy Speaks. He'll talk more about that later. He's the author and strategist who equips leaders through this ACE framework to align who they are, how they show up, and what they deliver. Cheddy, welcome to the show. It's great talking with you again.
Wow, I'm so glad I paid you $100 for the intro. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I already spent it on my wife, but yeah.
Wise man. Oh, it's
So
so good
hey,
to be here.
thank you for doing this, and thank you for your military service.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I really appreciate that. Now, you live by a powerful motto: do it now, and what are you waiting for? Can you briefly tell us, um, our listeners, about your journey from Marine Corps to real estate and leadership coaching, and how that
Oh,
urgency
sure.
led you to
Sure.
develop this ACE model?
I'm going to do it super slow. I'll tell you, I'm Jim English, which means I'm born in England. So I'll say I grew up in England where I was raised, but then I went to move to New York as a teenager. So if you want to think of this, where my upbringing is British, but where I grew up is New York. And all of that
Okay.
was done with Jamaican parents. So it's three different value sets that come together to make who the heck, who, whatever I am. And out of all of that, I decided to join the Marine Corps because money for college ran out. So therefore, charm and good look just doesn't keep you there. Probably the best
Right.
decision I've ever made in my life. I felt like I was too old to be home. And my mom was like, it's a different country. People stay home longer here. I'm like, I'm too old to be in your house, mom. I gotta go. So I joined the Marine Corps. And from that journey, I became a US citizen, not for patriotic reasons. Don't judge me. I wanted the sword. They had a
Okay.
really nice sword. I wanted that sword. So my recruiter was like, "You got to be an
Very
officer." I'm like,
simple.
"I want to be an officer." But you got to be a citizen. Well, I'm going to become a citizen. And I kid you not, on my form, I wrote, "I want to be a citizen in the United States Marine Corps or in the United States, so I can become an officer in the Marine Corps." That was what I
Wow.
wrote. That was the reason I became a citizen because at that age,
Hey,
it
I
wasn't even a thing
appreciate
to
the
me.
honesty.
But it's funny how that converts and how you go from just it being something that you want as a challenge or to kind of as an exit strategy to get out of your house. And it became my way of life. It became my way of life. And in that space, I just saw the whole spectrum of leadership, phenomenal leadership, terrible leadership, mediocre leadership. But honestly, most of it
Hmm.
was really good and effective. Effective
Hmm.
leadership. How do you get 300 people to do the same thing at the same time in roughly the same way? How can you go to a combat zone and not know a Marine, but know just because they're a Marine, if you say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 is going to get done? How does that
That's
happen?
incredibly powerful.
It
Yeah.
is mind blowing. So you realize there's some things here that really work. And at some point, I thought you had to be a robot. I'm in the Marine Corps and I'm walking around and you got to be a certain way. Marine has to act a certain way. And a Marine is just a
Hmm.
Marine, you're just a war fighter, you're a warrior. And then I was at a formation and my commander was leaving his family. He was just pulled up and he comes out, hugs his baby, kisses his wife. And I'm like, wait, you can be a real human and be a Marine too? And this sounds crazy, but I'm a young Marine and I had never seen this before. I'm like, wow, you can
Hmm.
actually be a warrior and you can be a daddy and you can be a, honey, you can be a husband at the same time. So I was like, well,
And
so
that
you can be
balance.
who you need to be.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So it taught me about
Wow.
authenticity and confidence. You realize there's a fake kind of bravado that's not really confidence. But when you're aligned
Hmm.
with your message, it has so much impetus, so much weight. Even if somebody doesn't agree with you, they'll listen. They're going to be receptive because of the confidence you exude. You are your calling card. In other words, you realize
Hmm.
that if you don't believe in you or what you're promoting, why should anybody else? Why should they? So that confidence
Hmm.
exudes and enables you to have a solidified message. And in effectiveness, you've got to be good. Whatever it is you do, you've got to be good. And usually being good isn't usually natural talent. That's nice if you have it, but hard work will destroy natural talent over time. So if you have natural talent and hard work, it's going to be outstanding. So I learned that
Powerful
you can
combo.
always get
Yeah.
better. It's such an amazing combo. And you've got to just get better and refine what you do and iterate and iterate. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. And you come from a zero defect world where mistakes could be punished, but you realize if I don't make the mistakes, when that situation arises, what do I do? If I make the mistake, I've learned ways to mitigate it the next time. If I make mistakes when
Mhm.
things are small, I won't make the same mistake when things are big. Like I had one of my first businesses in the Marine Corps, selling car parts online at the Pentagon. I go into the courtyard of the Pentagon, I'd sell car parts. It was pretty
As
awesome,
a
right?
side gig, this
As a
wasn't
side
for the
gig. Oh
Marines.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So on my lunch break, I'd run to the courtyard and start doing orders. And I made a mistake. I had did a net 60 for some car parts, some expensive car parts from Austria. So I shipped them to a car dealership. They wanted the parts. And I'm thinking business is very honest. They never paid me. I lost
Mm.
I lost about $3,000 on that exhaust. Couldn't replace it, couldn't repair it, couldn't get
Ouch.
it back. It was shipped from Germany, right, or Austria, pardon me, right to the dealership. I actually flew out to California to find a company. They, of course, went out of business, which is another story altogether about
Uh,
integrity. Not surprised. But I realized I was so bummed. And at some point, you got to kind of get out of that frame of mind. I was like, Cheddy, think about it. Isn't it better you made that $3,000 mistake than making a $300,000 mistake?
exactly.
And I was
Exactly.
like,
And but it takes a discipline of mind because you beat yourself up at first. Oh, I'm so stupid. I can't believe I did
exactly.
that. Blah blah blah. And yeah, it hurts, right? But
Yeah,
the way you said it's like, hey, but what can I learn from this? And how do I
exactly.
move that forward? Listening to you describe this, for my two quotes popped into my head. You're probably familiar with them. One is I think it was Calvin Coolidge, president back in the 1920s here in the US, said, nothing beats the power of persistence. And then it goes on a little bit farther, but Google it and people will find it. And that to your point, right? You're going
So
to fail.
true.
Pick up and
So
learn
true.
again. In fact, and that one, and then the other was, I know that you're a big, oh gosh, now I just went blank. John
John
Maxwell. You're
Maxwell?
a big John Maxwell fan. And
Yes.
oh man, he's fantastic. Listeners, if
He's
you've never
amazing.
listened to John Maxwell, look him up. You'll be
Go look him
just
up.
amazed and learn a lot. But he talks about this idea of failing forward. That you
Failing
didn't say it
fast.
that way, but that's what it
Oh,
is, right?
yes.
We're going to make mistakes, and just it's part of life. So look at it. Don't just go crazy, but when you make a mistake, stop, take a deep breath. Man, why did I do that? What can I learn from this? Maybe pray about it and ask for some guidance, right? But
Yeah.
when you do that, if you're not failing, you're not pushing yourself hard enough and you're keeping yourself back, right? And but you got to push to that edge and fail and get back up and go
Yes.
again. Don't go too far. You can go too far and do stupid stuff. That's another talk for another day. But those that
We
popped
could
into
do a
my head as
series.
you were talking here. And the so let's think for a second as we talk, as you're talking this ACE model now. I
Yes.
think about real estate. I'm going to say something. You tell me if this makes sense. When you talk about authenticity, what comes to mind for me is the importance of having a buy box. If you don't define your buy box, you don't really know who you are, right? Or you don't know what
That
you're trying to become.
it's easy when things are easy to not have a standard, if that makes any sense. When things
Yeah.
get tough and things get dicey, or things are too good where you start to neglect your own principles, that's when you need to worry. And when I say authenticity, people always think it means, well, I'm me and and that's just it. I'm just going to keep it real. It's a lot deeper than that. It's what is your standard? What is your character? What do you
Mhm.
stand for? What is your go no go criteria, if you want to call it that? What are your tenets? What are your pillars? And it's that kind of thing. What is your mission, vision, and goal and purpose for being on this earth? That when I say authenticity, that's what I mean. How do you represent in an organization? Who are you in that organization? What does that mean to you? Are you in alignment with your beliefs, with the position that you're in and what you're doing and how you show up? So it's more than just I'm Cheddy. I am who I am, and that's all that I am. It's not Popeye. It's not that. It's really the core of you. How do you express that outward? It's your integrity. It is the cornerstone of who
Mhm.
you are. Because if that is strong, it's a foundation. It's a foundational part of who we are. If it's strong, you're going to be aligned. And when you talk about a buy box, The minute you deviate from your own standards, well, you've opened yourself up to risks that you probably haven't even
Hmm.
assessed or evaluated because you're strong in your spaces and you know why you have them. And
And I've
it's
seen
easy.
that with real
Oof.
estate investors. I was guilty of it at first too, but then thank goodness I had a mentor that asked me, "What's your buy box?" And my answer at first was really broad and sweeping because I didn't want to miss a little bit of FOMO, and that this comes into some other stuff later. I think
Oh
I
yeah.
didn't want to miss out on an opportunity. I just wanted an opportunity, and he's like, man, you got to focus.
Yep.
You gotta hone in. There's going to be enough deals. You can do some here and then move, but you've got to hone in and see. To your point,
Yes.
who are you? What are you comfortable with? There's levels of risk. There's levels of investment
Yeah.
that was probably too. Like one thing I learned quick was like first couple of deals we're looking at were really big, like
Yeah.
$30 million deals, and
Awesome.
the team, nobody had done a $30 million deal, right? So how did we think we
Just
were
a
going to pull
zero.
this off? I mean, we were bravado thinking,
Of
oh,
course.
we're gonna, and so we're like, couple of us said, let's scale back down to something we think we can do. We ended up closing a couple of $6 million deals,
Oh
and
yeah.
now we're going to a 12. So I say that not to brag, but to say until we did that, we were struggling and
Yep.
reaching too high, and because we're cool and we can do
Of
this.
course.
It wasn't until we got authentic and in that case, it was shrinking our buy box, but
Yeah.
we needed to do that originally to work within who we were at the time, right? And then guess what? We made a few mistakes. We learned we had some success, and now we're growing, and the buy box is growing a little bit more because
That
we're changing as a person, as a team, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah, and so that
that is a
confidence is
beautiful.
building because we're
I
being
love
more
that
effective.
example. I
Oh,
love that
thanks.
example. It's so aligned of who you are. And for the moment, the big shiny thing made you get distracted. We get distracted by the big shiny. So you may have got
Hmm.
distracted, but you came back and it actually makes you stronger. It's imagine somebody ego lifting in the gym, going in there and picking, stacking plates and then trying to push them. And then they get the death
They
strangle
drop
from
it
the
or they're
bar.
stuck. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. That can be avoided by using incremental growth, incremental steps. And sometimes it may seem slower, but it's more precise. You're crafting it, you're learning what you want, what you don't want. You're learning your risk tolerance, you're learning the character you there's a certain audit that's done. You have to audit for a character. You have to. You've got to underwrite for character as well, not just the numbers on a property, also the individuals you're working with. And you're going to learn really quick who you want to deal with and how are your thoughts aligned? Is your risk tolerance similar? Because if not, you're going to be pulling in different directions. And it's just wise that you learn that over time with more iterations, more repetitions. So you got more
right.
reps in by buying, smaller but more properties, and you learn so much more from that activity, which is wise, which is wise. And now look at you now.
Yeah. Well, it's a wonderful thing. Let's shift a little bit.
Yes.
I would love to see how you define analysis paralysis in leadership terms, and why do smart, really capable investors get stuck with that paralysis?
Oh, I love it. Let's think about the Pareto principle. I love that 80/20 rule. You've probably
Hmm.
heard it. In
Oh
the
yeah,
Marine Corps, we talk about the 80% solution. You'll hear people say that a lot. It's if it's 80% done, it's done enough. Because what
that's
happens
a
is
tough one for people to accept,
we all want a
especially
Mona Lisa.
detailed people, right? It's like, no, I need more data,
But
right?
unfortunately, you get more data when you do it. You can adjust and you can refine and you can move on. Sometimes
Hmm.
and I tell people this, what's perfect to you may not be perfect to someone else. If you're on a
Good
chessboard
point.
and your side is perfect, if you turn it around, is it just as perfect or is it different? So perfect is a perspective thing and it's very subjective. It's not the same for everybody. Therefore,
Hmm.
when you talk about analysis paralysis, we're thinking so hard to make this thing so right and just like we say in the military, the enemy has a vote in your plan. Enemy has a vote. And by that, what that means is there are factors you haven't considered in your perfect plan that you're going to become face to face with. And the
Hmm.
minute those factors come alive or you see them, guess what? Your perfect plan is no longer perfect. And
Yeah, what's the old adage? Best battle plan on paper blows up on the first shot or something like
it is
that, right?
exactly that. I mean, there's so many
Yeah,
ways that can be said. Never fall in love with your plan. Your
yeah,
plan is only as good as you until you cross the line of departure. Because the minute you cross the line of departure, all the factors you didn't mention or didn't plan for, they have a vote, and they're actively
Right.
participating.
Well, and I like the way you phrase that because that happens. That's life, right? And at
Yes,
some point, hopefully you figure that out, right? But I think that's why the the authenticity is so important because when you have your authenticity, I think, tell me if this makes sense. You have
yeah,
that authenticity, say, this is me and what I'm about. And we're talking about in real estate terms, it's my buy box. You start to
yeah,
execute, shit happens, right? And
yep,
it's like,
as it will.
oh crap. Well, is it taking me out of my buy box? Yeah, it is. Okay, leave it alone. Go on somewhere else. That's not success. Okay, what
Yes,
gets me back? Oh, this is actually getting me into my buy box. Okay, if I have that framework, I know now how to deal with some of that, right? And part of
that's
that I
perfect.
think is defining what does success look like, right? Because then oh hey, we're here. We made it. I don't have to scale another like I was talking about
Right.
the 6 million versus 30 million, right?
Yeah,
Six works. It's cash flowing. It's great. It's going to get over 2x return in 5 years. That's what we look
there it
for on a lot
is.
of deals, right? It's just not as big. That's okay.
Yep.
It's easier for us to manage, right? And so I like the order, I guess, is of the sequence here that you're talking about. Um,
Well, yeah, to add to what you're saying, because what you're saying is spot on. When you think of a buy box, since we're talking about the buy box, it's your North Star. I
yeah,
would say the authenticity is definitely your North Star. And guess what? When there's no clouds in the sky, when things are clear and you know where you're going, don't need it. Just business as usual. When you get a little lost and you lose your way and you're a little spun around, you don't know what's what, that's when the North Star comes in handy. That's when
yeah.
you need to have those things. You need to have them in place when things are uncertain. Because what's going to happen is once people know you, and you want to, let's call it professional authenticity, that's going to be your buy
Hmm.
box. Once people know your criteria, if things go south with the deal, they still know where you sat. They still know your values. They
Hmm.
still know your goals. And they know that even if the market dips or tanks or is unfavorable in this period, they know what your desired intent is. So they can rely on that because that doesn't
Hmm.
change no matter the factors. If you're all over the place, now you've just added to their uncertainty. And now
To
the
their
risk and the
uncertainty
concern
and
is
just
through the roof.
the breadth of stuff you get, right? I mean, we don't have time to deal with all that. We need
Right.
to
Keep it
focus.
tight.
Yeah.
Keep it
Well
tight.
said. Well
No,
said.
I love that.
You listening to you and knowing you a little bit, you've got this Marine Corps lens on execution, which is impressive. Um, and that's when I think of Marines, I think that's what I see, that
Yes.
precision, that excellence. And it was great to hear you talk about that balance too earlier. That they're real people, they have
That
families and
was
stuff.
mind blowing to
And
me, you know.
yeah, that's cool. So now, but let's take that and talk about um, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but let's unpack it a little bit more here. Is talk about how leaders and investors get into trouble when they get too emotionally attached to the plan instead of the mission. We were just talking about the mission's going to blow
Yes.
up. Like an underwriting spreadsheet, for
Oh,
example.
yes.
I've seen people just get too locked in, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's, let's be real. Procrastination, and it has some kissing cousins, but it's not the only word out there, but procrastination, perfectionism, let's call it, let's go with those two.
Yeah,
Procrastination,
yeah, that,
perfectionism, they're kissing cousins. They're almost, they're different faces on the same die. You roll them, you get them. Guess
mhm,
what? No matter which one you go with, you get zero action. This is what they do: fear, procrastination, delays, excuses, all of those kind of activities, perfectionism. At the end of the day, they produce no fruit because you're so
right.
busy spinning your wheels. You're so busy revving
Wasted
the engine.
energy. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
You're revving the engine, but it's not going anywhere. And they have no flow, no particle flow, no energy, no impetus, no motion. So how can that succeed? At some point, version done is better than version none. I heard somebody say
Right.
that and I almost fell out of my seat. And
I
it
love
made
that
sense
way yep,
immediately. Get it out there.
yep.
And that doesn't say throw caution to the wind and don't adhere to your own criteria as far as due diligence goes. Do your due
Hmm.
diligence, do your underwriting, do the things you're supposed to do administratively. But at some point, you've got to have a criteria. If these check marks are met, all 10 of our hard lines are met, we can proceed.
Hmm.
Even if the plan wasn't written on the right paper, even if you didn't use the right font, those kind of things, because those things are superfluous at some point. And you
Right.
realize if you're 80% done, you can start. Some things are modifiable. You can go back and amend how you're going to proceed. Maybe the business plan
Hmm.
changes, but at least it's on the street and you're doing the work. because the other
Well
20% is
said.
going to become clear as you're doing the thing. If not, we'd
Yeah,
all be
as you
billionaires.
or 500 millionaires, just fine.
Exactly,
You know,
exactly.
hearing you talk about this reminds me of there's a famous phrase called "Don't major in the minors," and it's that,
It is that.
if 80% back to the 80/20, if 80% is successful based on our criteria, that other 20% is minor stuff. But don't even
Yes.
mess with it. Don't major in
Yep.
the minors. And I catch myself saying that sometimes with people. It's like I need to say it to myself sometimes too, because we
Oh
get
yeah.
when we're I'm not a perfectionist, but I like to do things well, right? And so
Yes.
if I'm trying to hone that fine edge, it's like if I haven't defined what success is, I'll catch myself just going, it's like, dude, you don't need to go that far. You were done
Right.
10 minutes ago,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
exactly true. And you have to almost assess yourself because when you're passionate about something, you want to do your absolute best. It's your
Right.
legacy, it's your name, it's your reputation, it's your credibility, and that all makes sense. But at some point, if you perfecting that one little 2% detail is slowing down the overall on the macro sense, the overall mission,
Hmm.
the overall project, you got to reassess that. You got to reassess
Right.
that. And I always say pull the
Right.
trigger. And you said something that made me chuckle, and I chuckled because you said do it now. What are you waiting for? I chuckled because I got that from my late sister. I was
Really?
offered a job as a CEO for a guy who knew me and was like, look, I'm a tech guy. I know tech stuff, but you can speak to humans. Is basically what he said. And you can translate my tech stuff into human speak. And we
Yeah.
chuckled about it. And he goes, I'm not putting on a suit, Cheddy, but you will. Would you be my CEO? And we talked about it. And at first I said what you always say, well, I'm not qualified. I don't, I haven't done that before, blah, blah, blah. The myriad reasons why you can't do something. So my sister said those words. She was in England, and this is before she passed away. She's like, what do you mean you're not going to, what you're thinking about it? Chedi, do it now. What are you waiting for? She said that, and it
Wow.
stuck with me because it's almost like what Richard Branson says when you're given a position take the position and figure it out. And
Yeah.
that's the best way to do it. Figure it out because you realize, even if you've been doing a job for a company, if you go to a different company, you know what you're going to have to do? Onboard, learn their way,
Yeah.
learn the way it's
Yeah.
done here. So no matter where you go, you're still going to have this novice component where you've got to learn a thing. So do it. If you've done 10 deals, the 11th deal is still going to be a component that you don't know that you're going to have to learn.
Everyone's
You're going to have
different.
to figure it
Everyone
out.
is different. Yeah.
Exactly.
Agree.
So that unknown, honestly, I believe we get paid for the unknown. We get paid to
Hmm.
manage the risk, manage the unknown, manage the uncertainty, and mitigate it. And you may not know what's going to happen, but you may have systems in place that if this happens, we do that. If there's a flood in one of our properties, we do this, and we report it. Let our investors know. Whatever it may be, you have a system for informing, for correcting, for mitigating, for stopping, for preventing, for explaining, for communicating. You have systems for all of these things. And information is a beautiful thing. It can really
Hmm.
keep the ease down of your investors. It can exude confidence. But beyond that, it enables you to stay calm because you know there's probably a system in place for this,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And
Man, this is fantastic stuff. And we could talk about this all day long.
oh, we
But
could.
we need to wrap up this session. We need to come back and
Yes.
do another one on another
Any
little
day.
vector. But this has
Any
been
day.
fantastic today. But before we close out, I want to just do a
Yes.
really quick fire round with some really quick
Sure.
questions. I'll throw a question, just whatever comes to your mind.
Batter up.
Um, some tidbits here. So let's start with favorite book for someone that's stuck in their head, stuck in their own head.
Ooh, stuck in their head. Oh, I gotta look on my board now. Intentional living. John Maxwell. It's funny you said
John
that, Matt.
Maxwell. Okay, intentional living.
No,
I know that one. That's a good one.
I like that
Okay,
book because it gives you points on being direct and just making,
it's
doing
fantastic.
things.
Okay, one daily habit that prevents decision fatigue.
I wake up, and it's going to sound silly to you. You're going to look at me funny, but I wake up, and one of the first things I say before I open my eyes is do it now, do it now.
What are
And
you
it sounds
waiting for?
silly. I want to say I heard that I heard it from John Maxwell first and some of the people in his team,
Okay.
but I want to say it may come from it may be a Zig Ziglar thing. It may not have came from, but
Yeah, probably
in that
somebody like that.
space, so many people
Yep.
have the same kind of methodologies, but it makes sense.
Yeah,
It
they say it
primes
all
your
a little bit
mind.
differently, but it
Yes.
comes back to that. Okay.
Do it
All
now.
right,
And it
one
was just
more.
double for me. Oh, what you got?
Nope, that's good. One more. Um, we've been talking about ACE,
Yes.
authenticity, confidence, and execution. What's
effectiveness.
the next executable move for someone listening right now?
Take the first step. If
I
you're a
was going to
new
say, do it
investor,
now.
take the first step. It sounds silly, but that's where this podcast is aligned into us saying, take the first
Hmm.
step. If you're afraid, do it afraid. If you're unprepared, do it as prepared as you are. If you feel messy, do it messy. Just do it. Do it because you're going
I,
to learn more from the action of doing it than the theory of
yep.
thinking about it.
Amen.
That's
I
it.
like that. Well said.
Pull
Well,
the
man,
trigger.
thanks for showing us how to start turning this ACE model into a tool for decisive action and doing it now.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely. Do
been
it
it's
now.
been really powerful. It reminds us that you said it a minute ago, it's not about perfect conditions. It's about getting started and aligning with what you defined as your authenticity.
Yes.
And yeah, yeah,
Yes.
when you know who you are, show up with confidence, execute with some discipline, you stop living in that hesitation and that analysis paralysis. Now, before we
Yes.
go, where can listeners find out more about Cheddy Speaks?
You can find out by going on social media at Cheddy Speaks. I'm actually just changing believe it or not, I'm changing my name to Cheddy W Matthews now. But if you look up Cheddy
Okay.
Speaks, you can find me on LinkedIn at Cheddy W Matthews, linkedin.com/in/Cheddy Matthews. I'm there, I'm available.
Hey
But
there. Oh,
reach
I
out.
know. I want listeners to find you too because it's great stuff.
You can also find me on the Multifamilianaire podcast, which I do with my co-host Selchuk Almandar, where we talk about similar information. And it's really for people who are new to real estate investing or people who are thinking about starting to really get them
Okay.
to do what we're talking about now. Take the first step. So
Right.
it's all aligned. It's all aligned. Find me.
Fantastic.
Thank
Fantastic.
you.
Thank you, Chetty. And for our
Dennis,
listeners, if today gave you that little push you needed to move past analysis and into your next deal, please share this episode. And that's how more people find this 1% pathway.
yeah,
Until then, Godspeed and blessings to you and yours. This is Dennis McQueen signing off. Have a super fantastic day.
bye now.